It happened on a quiet afternoon in a small American town, the kind of place where everyone thinks they know everyone, and where power often hides behind a badge. A black man was walking his dog down the sidewalk, minding his own business, when a white police officer pulled up, jumped out of his cruiser, and without a word, kicked the man's dog. Hard. What the officer didn't know, what he couldn't have imagined, was who this man really was. And by the time he found out, it was already too late. The dog yelped in pain and stumbled back, tail between its legs. The man froze for a moment, not out of fear, but out of something far more dangerous. Calculation. He slowly looked up at the officer, his eyes calm, unreadable. "You got a problem?" The cop barked, puffing up his chest, one hand hovering near his holster. The man didn't flinch. He reached down, gently comforted his dog, and stood up straight. "That was a mistake," he said softly. "Not a threat. A fact." "Yeah." The cop sneered. "And who the hell are you supposed to be?" The man didn't answer. He didn't need to. Within minutes, two black SUVs pulled up to the curb, silent as shadows. Men in suits stepped out, earpieces in their ears, moving with purpose. The officer's face drained of color. One of the agents looked directly at the cop. "You just assaulted the personal service animal of a federal operative under presidential protection," he said flatly. "You're going to want to lawyer up." The neighborhood, once quiet, now buzzed with the tension of something huge unraveling, and the real story hadn't even started yet. The officer stumbled backward, stammering. I didn't know. I thought he was just." The agent didn't blink. "You didn't think. That's the problem." The man, still nameless to the officer, knelt again beside his dog, checking its leg with a quiet tenderness that contrasted starkly with the chaos unraveling around him. The dog whimpered, but stayed close, loyal and unshaken. "What's your name, officer?" one of the men in suits asked sharply, already speaking into a small recording device. The cop hesitated. "Officer Ryan Cooper. Badge number 7856. Turn in your weapon and step back." A crowd had begun to gather. People pulled out phones, filming. Some whispered. Others watched in stunned silence. This wasn't just a cop being held accountable. This was something else. Something bigger. The black man finally stood. He looked at the agent. "Is she going to be okay?" The agent nodded. "Yes, sir. We'll get her to a vet immediately." Then he turned to Cooper. "You don't even know whose dog you kicked," he said, almost with pity. "You really picked the wrong damn man today." Cooper, now pale, managed to croak. Who is he?" The agent glanced at the man, as if awaiting permission to speak. The man gave a subtle nod. "He's not just a federal operative," the agent said. "He's the reason you still have a country." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. "He's the reason you still have a country." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. A few people lowered their phones, unsure if they were filming history or something they were never meant to see. Officer Cooper's mouth opened, but no sound came out. He looked from the suited agents to the man he'd dismissed as just another black guy with a dog. Now the weight of that assumption pressed down on him like a mountain. The man didn't gloat. He didn't even look angry. There was something more terrifying than fury in his silence. The kind of quiet forged in places where men break and wars don't make the news. The agent continued, voice cool and controlled. He served 37 classified missions across 3 continents. Neutralized threats that never made it to your television screen. He's ghosted so deep, even we need special clearance just to speak his name. The man finally spoke. "That's enough." The agents stopped talking immediately. One of them gave a small nod and stepped away to make a call. A black van pulled up. It didn't have license plates. Two men in tactical gear stepped out and gently carried the dog into the back, where a mobile veterinary unit was already whirring to life. Cooper was still frozen. "I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know." The man stepped forward now, slowly. He was taller than he looked before. Not because he grew, but because Cooper finally saw him without the filter of his bias. "That's always the excuse," the man said, his voice low. "You never know until it's too late." And with that, he walked away, not toward the agents, but down the same sidewalk where it all began, as if none of it surprised him. But behind him, the machine had already started moving. Internal Affairs was notified. Federal oversight called in. News outlets were sniffing around. And somewhere deep inside a building with no name, someone pulled up a file labeled Codename Ghost Hawk. Status reactivated. 2 hours later, somewhere beneath Washington, D.C., behind a 12-inch thick steel door that didn't officially exist, 3 people sat in a darkened conference room. A red file was open on the table. No one spoke. Finally, the woman at the head of the table, hair streaked with gray, eyes like carved glass, closed the folder with a snap. "So," she said, "Ghost Hawk walked right into the open. On purpose." One of the men leaned forward. It wasn't just a walk. He let himself be seen. The crowd, the body cams, social media. He knew it would spread. "Then the dog wasn't the trigger," she said, almost to herself. "It was the message." The third person in the room, silent until now, spoke quietly. "He warned us, years ago, said if we ever let it get this bad again, he wouldn't stay in the shadows." They all sat with that thought. Meanwhile, across the country, the man walked into a nondescript building in Atlanta, a rundown barbershop with peeling paint and no working sign. He knocked twice, paused, then once. The door buzzed open. Inside was not a barbershop. Rows of screens, maps, live feeds, faces tracked in real time. There were people already waiting for him. Old faces, younger ones, all standing straighter the moment he entered. A woman approached, handing him a tablet. The officer's suspension was overturned an hour ago. Internal Affairs is burying it. He didn't even look at the screen. Of course they are. But, she hesitated, tapping the tablet. Someone's trying to leak it. Not us. Outside. And they're close to the truth. Too close. The man took the tablet now, scrolled, stopped, and frowned. They weren't supposed to find that. The room went silent. He turned to the others. "We have to move. Tonight. Before they do." A younger man, barely 30, asked, "Are we officially back?" The man looked out the window, where dusk was settling over the city like a bruise. "We were never gone," he said. "They just forgot." 3 days later, the video had gone viral. Not the full footage that never made it past certain filters, but enough to spark outrage. Enough to raise questions. Who was the man? Why did federal agents protect him like a head of state? Why was the officer who kicked his dog suddenly on indefinite leave with no public statement? No answers came, only silence. Until one morning, on a popular independent journalist's blog, an anonymous post appeared. "They call him Ghost Hawk. You've never heard of him because he was designed to be forgotten. When the country was on the edge, he held the line from the shadows. And when the line disappeared, he stepped back into the light." The post disappeared within minutes. But by then, it had already been copied, screenshot, reposted across 1,000 corners of the internet. The myth was born. Back in DC, the woman with steel eyes stood alone in a secure room. She stared at the red file on the table, now stamped, retired, final. The president himself had signed it. Ghost Hawk had completed his final mission, not one of violence, but of presence. A reminder to the system, a warning to the wolves. There are still people you don't push too far. And now he was gone again. Somewhere in the southwest, the man walked under a blood-orange sky, his dog trotting beside him, now healed, happy, tail wagging like nothing had happened. A child waved at him from a porch. He smiled and waved back. For a moment, he looked like any other man walking his dog. But if you looked closely, too closely, you'd see the way he scanned the rooftops without moving his head. You'd see how his steps never landed on loose gravel. You'd see how his dog always walked slightly ahead, ears up. Because Ghost Hawk didn't vanish. He simply went quiet, waiting, watching. And if the day ever came when the country needed him again, he wouldn't knock twice,